Let me get that going. All right, so it's recording. And with that, I guess we might as well go ahead and respect everybody's time and get moving. So if you want to take it over, Jennifer or Jane.
I'll let Jamie start the slideshow while I say thank you to those of you who took time out of your evening to join us for a project update for our Newport Creek area drainage study. Jamie, we're seeing your entire behind the scenes presentation.
Oh, are you? Hold on a
We
second.
are. Might want to change to the other slide or share the other screen. But again, this is kind of the middle of the road, almost near the end of the road. What we anticipate from this meeting is kind of covering everything that we found out in the field, as well as some preliminary recommendations. But again, this is not the final report. This is not the final meeting. This is just kind of the next steps to give the community an update as to where we are on this project, and make sure that if there are any questions that we can answer along the way. And I will let Jamie try it again.
Hold on.
Technology always just.
How about that?
That is perfect, Jamie. Thank you.
Okay.
Wonderful. And as I mentioned, there's our meeting agenda, just a few of the things that I previously mentioned. Next slide, please. And Heather, I'll let you review the rules for discussion.
Sure. So we're doing this in webinar format, which means you're muted for the time being. But when we get to questions and answers, you're welcome to raise your hand and I'll give you permission to unmute yourself and you can talk, or you can ask questions through the Q&A feature that's down at the bottom of the page. So you can submit those in writing and I'll read them out loud to the project team, and the project team, whoever would like to answer that question can answer that out loud. Let's see, your screen share is off, your video camera is off. Again, we're doing this in webinar formats. The meeting is being recorded. I think everybody's already aware of that. So I've started the recording already. And then we just ask that people are respectful to each other. So just be nice to each other, ask your questions. The intention of this is to really help you understand what the study is about, what we're learning, and some solutions that might come out of this.
So just a reintroduction of the project team, those of us that are on the call. My name is Jennifer Lawson. I am the Water Quality Manager for the City of Ann Arbor in the Systems Planning Unit. And I am the project manager for the study in front of us today.
And I'm Heather Seifert. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist at the City of Ann Arbor.
Did Harry join us yet?
Not yet. No.
Harry is not here yet. It sounded like he was juggling several meetings tonight, so he might join us a little later.
So so Harry Sheehan is the Deputy Water Resources Commissioner for Washtenaw County. Hopefully he'll join us in a little bit. My name is Jamie Burton. I'm the project lead from Hubbell, Roth and Clark. We're the engineering consultants on behalf of the city. And also with me tonight is Stephanie Petrello, who is our project analyst, project manager, and did a lot of this work. So Jen or Heather, anything else you want me to get started?
You want to go ahead and get started, Jamie?
Sure.
Looks like we have another participant that just joined us.
We
Excellent.
do, yes. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if any of the participants had joined the previous coffee hours that talked really about the project and the overall concerns within the watershed. But our project is really based into 5 key elements, which is field, gathering information. That was the coffee hours previously, and then field work, field data, background information, plans, everything we can get our hands on. We've gone through that data and we're going to kind of present what we found related to those items and some ideas for possible solutions, recommendations. Nothing finite. I do not have solutions for a specific point on the map. I do have concepts. And we're really looking for additional feedback from those who live in the watershed and are impacted by this creek. And then based on all of that, we'll pull all this together and issue a report that goes into the city's hands, and then decisions will be made whether or not what to do, when to do it, how to do it. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So our project goals, when we review watersheds and we review streams, we really try to focus in on a few things, especially in flooding. Flooding and water quality are at the root of folks' concerns. One element is to really do an evaluation. We walked both branches of the creek and really looked for lots of things that we'll talk about, but focusing in on stream bank stabilization opportunities. Where is the stream bank failing, and are there opportunities for restoration? Stream bank instability or stream bank erosion really characterizes a problem. It's a symptom, is an appearance of a problem, instability in the stream, or the stream has lost its connectivity to the floodplain, or trees have fallen down. So it really is a good way to determine that the stream needs some assistance. There is a number of detention basins already in the watershed, and that provide storage, provide some water quality benefits as well, and but also really is kind of tempers the flow coming off of development or developed areas within here prior to discharging to the creek. So one thought would be it's always better to optimize existing facilities versus creating new. So we've got some comments and some thoughts on some of those private detention basins. When you're dealing with flooding, then it's always a good idea to add more, or to see opportunities to add more management of stormwater runoff. And so there are some opportunities, vacant land, publicly owned land, in areas where maybe even the stream corridor itself can be widened so that you could provide some flow management and stormwater detention. Finally, in any stream that's been impacted by development, you have culvert crossings, bridge crossings, possible utilities that are in the way, creating pinch points, making sure which really impact the hydraulics and the flow of water through the creek. So those are kind of the 4 areas of project goals we wanted to try to evaluate in this study. So we're going to walk through each of them independently. What you see on this graphic is what we call like a snake map or a rainbow map, color map. In green to red, green, yellow, orange, dark green are, to red, really highlight the areas of stream bank instability, or where is there erosion occurring. So you can see there's 2 branches, one from Skyline going to the north and to the river, and one over there, that Riverwood Timber Drive area, which kind of converge in the middle of this this district. So as we work our way through, we've walked both of these extensively. We've taken, these are not only the data points, these represent kind of segments that we've identified as potentially having some instability or stabilization opportunities. So we categorize those as minor, moderate, and severe. All streams, natural stream systems, county drains, water wants to move, and water can create some erosion. Not all erosion is bad. Erosion turns into downstream deposition. The key is it is close to being in balance as possible over different flow patterns. So some erosion is not bad, some deposition is not bad. That's just the river dealing with the natural energy. But when you move out of minor erosion, so you see some of the banks here are starting to erode, undercut, some of the trees are starting to fall in. We'd call that minor erosion. This might be something that you would monitor and or you could fix with low impact kind of solutions such as blankets, plantings, maybe a little bit of stone, but generally minor erosion is nothing to worry about other than monitor. As you move into moderate, here's a good picture that shows both the erosion in the back, trees falling down, which may have been the cause, and also deposition occurring on the side. So the river's actually moving over into the bank where the water is slower, it's depositing, where it's faster, it's eroding. So moderate erosion would require a little bit more intervention, whether that's using wood products, using vegetated products, maybe some stone. But this would be a little bit more than monitor, maybe go in there and do some grading and some other work. When you get to severe, and severe can be really a couple different things. Severe can be because it's a long stretch, a high stretch, so it's giving a lot of sediment to the stream. Can also be, as you notice up top here, here's a fence line. You could have utilities, sanitary water main right behind it, which would elevate any one of these into a higher category to make sure that we're monitoring, those so that they don't become a larger impact. So severe requires intervention to fix and remedy. So what are some of those? Well, here, excuse me. So what are some, of the key facts of our findings? We did about 1,700 feet of stream investigation walkthrough. That's both branches. Multiply that by 2. My math's correct. It's around 34,000 feet of banks. You're right around 20% that we've identified as minor, moderate, or severe. Severe being the highest category. But generally speaking, about 20% of the banks. It doesn't mean 10%, but both banks of length. It really does mean one side could be perfectly fine and the other is not. So we've got those documented in broken out into these categories. I want to mention that what we saw out there on these in particular are not uncommon for natural systems or man-made drainage systems. Rivers move, they're impacted by development, they're impacted by change in the watershed. The watershed is not the same as it was before. And now, so we're dealing with, some of these impacts that we have on our river systems. So this isn't unique to the city or to other areas. It's not unique to these types of systems. So it really, we expected to see some of this and we found it. While we were out there, we looked at blockages. You can see the log jam on the upper right, sedimentation bars kind of forming in certain areas. We pointed those out. Some invasive species were identified in and around the banks, vegetative species. You got some bridge and old culvert crossings you see in the upper picture. Constructed banks. Some of the residents have, in the lower picture, have gone through and have done some work, whether that was for erosion or for aesthetics, and some of it's holding up great, and some of it's has been moved around and eroded as well. We've noted general conditions, various riffles, which are natural stone structures in the drain, in the creek, things coming in the side, outlet pipes and utilities. Notice in this middle picture, we believe those to be old or current phone lines, and as the river has moved, it doesn't just move laterally, it can move vertically, and utilities that weren't put in deep enough or low enough, or as the river moved, and maybe that's in the bank. Sometimes you see some of these utilities being exposed out there. So there are 17 private detention basins in this watershed, and they're kind of alphanumerically identified here. We've reviewed all of these, kind of see where they go. To note, the skyline detention basins are private, even though schools sometimes are considered to be public. Is the way the city functions. These are all private systems that were installed as these various subdivisions developed, and typically are the responsibilities of the subdivisions themselves or the landowner, which in the case of the school. Just a little bit of conversation about how do storm basins work and what are they for. So storm basins are intended to pick up the increase in drainage from development, from hard surfaces, roads, houses, driveways, etc., to run it through a basic storage facility. Some have filters at the end of them that help capture some of the sediment that's picked up, but the general purpose is to hold water for a period of time, then slowly release it back into the river. To do that, you slow the flow of water down, which means you typically then deposit whatever the water is carrying into these basins. So they fill in over time. Vegetation practices, invasives can fill these things in. But generally speaking, these are for volumetric, but they also serve a water quality standpoint. There are maintenance agreements. We have not researched all of these basins yet, but all of them have typically, or most of them will likely have some sort of documentation that makes it the responsibility of the subdivision owners to maintain. And then there's some maintenance agreements or easements or things on top of that. So what did we find? So we looked at 17 basins, as I mentioned. 11 of them would be recommended for ongoing maintenance or improved maintenance. And what did we see? Excessive vegetation. Some of these were filled in, some with cattails, some with just grass. A lot of sedimentation. If you look at the picture to the left, where the outlet pipe used to be, upper left, where the outlet used to be, you can see all this dirt is new sedimentation that's formed since the basin was constructed. You can see some of in the upper right, some of those filling in. What that means is the basins were designed for capacity, a design capacity to manage the stormwater from its service area. And what's happening now is what's going on is not meeting that capacity, whether that's a volumetric or the flow reduction. So they're really just not the same. What was constructed to what was designed, what's there now, they do diminish capacity over time. We noted some invasive species and some inlet and outlet blockages. Again, very common. Stormwater basins were put in by the developer and kind of turned over to the association, whereby the roads, the sanitary, the water main are given to other entities, namely the city. Stormwater basins have just always kind of been left out, and this is typical of all communities. And without proper maintenance, somebody taking the care to do them, they do diminish over time, and then do not provide the same amount of capacity. We did look at opportunities for new stormwater management areas. We've identified vacant lots. We've identified areas that might be publicly owned. I don't believe there's any other than the right of way. There's some areas associated with Skyline back in the woods, but we really just tried to outlots from a subdivision along the river where development did not occur are some opportunities. So there is opportunities to build new stormwater management for new volume control. It is substantially more expensive than retrofitting or cleaning up or performing maintenance on the private, but there is an ability to add additional storage within this watershed. Over time, for when culverts and road crossings, this is the downstream, kind of the downstream ends, railroad tracks, and culverts that were built. Culverts were designed for the best information at the time. And the watershed has grown up over time as the development has occurred, and things and hydrology change in our climate has changed to the point where the flows through here are not the same. So now some of these culverts, which were perfectly designed 10, 20, 30 years ago, might be undersized at this point. We don't typically like to do 2 culverts anymore, because we know that one of them, it catches debris. And so we try to do a little bit bigger and wider culverts. You can see this bridge crossing, which is a box culvert. On the day that we're out there, these culverts were empty, but this culvert was full. So there might be an elevation issue there. We're looking into some of that at this time as well. So given all that, what are some of the things we can do? There's a whole host of solutions out there. And each site, each area might have its own type of solution and intervention, as we talked about earlier. So there are stream bank stabilization measures that just simply use wood that's removed for trees that are removed for access, wood that is removed from the stream to build the banks up and to protect the banks. You can add some stone, or you can use vegetated management, which is what you kind of see here in the upper picture. You could add additional, at the bottom of this is a riffle, but you can add other ledge rock and other control structures to keep the river where, to help with its energy, keep it inside its banks, make sure it's not going into any of these erosion areas, and then let the areas naturally restore. To add or recapture new storage, really the primary focus there would be to take care of the existing private detention basins before adding new. The last option there to add capacity is, if the drain were to be cleaned out, we would try to make it so there's a low flow channel, then an upper stage, not the floodplain, not at the big flood, but kind of in those every year, every couple rain event floods that provide additional capacity to drain. We call those a 2-stage channel. Finally, you could look at making modifications for these culverts to improve the efficiency of the flow, or you can add more flood tubes. So the bottom is still the same, but up top, if you see in this picture, you've got 2 culverts, the main culvert in the middle, and then kind of a floodplain. So as the water comes up, it can be relieved through a secondary pipe. So what's next? So we are working to, we had a coffee hour this afternoon. We've taken notes and we've got the information documented in question. We're taking into consideration anything homeowners bring up, whether that's finding a location that weren't aware of or some issue. We'll take any information out there, but also try to respond to as many questions or concerns or opportunities that exist to help the residents out. Once this is done, as mentioned, this is not a unique project in the city, but if this were to move forward in a petition sent to the Water Resources Commissioner under the drain code for a project, it would have to be further developed out of this report and added to the city's CIP program, and then really gauged based on budgets, funding, prioritization, importance, impact, and eventually it would work its way into a funding. That's not a tomorrow decision. That is a process that the city goes through every year. And so depending on the priorities and the budget allocations, this project can then move forward as it moves up the ranks. So I'm going to pause and ask Heather and Jen, and if Harry has joined us, I'm not sure. If you guys have got anything else to add, and then I will stop screen sharing and we can answer any questions.
I have nothing additional to add. Jamie, thank you. Sorry, you did a really wonderful job giving a great overview of the findings and kind of some of the identifiers of what the conditions are in the creek shed.
Thanks. Did Harry join us? I don't have that on.
Yeah, I'm here.
You did.
Yeah, I'm here very briefly. I've got a 7:30 as well.
Well, we do have somebody with their hand raised. So Alan, I'll allow you to talk and ask your question. All right, you should be able to unmute yourself now, Alan.
The stream to our property and it's mapped red and needs improvement. And I live in a township island. How is that affected? The fact that I don't live in the city.
So I'll start and then Harry and Jennifer will jump in here, which is if we went the route of through the drain code is a watershed based solution that is set forth under law, whereby we look at the whole watershed. So we would be looking at it from that basis, not necessarily individual. How that works is to be determined. And or Jen or Harry, if you guys want to weigh in on what happens between the city and the township. But a drain project can jump governmental boundaries, as it should.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't add much. It's, if it becomes a county drain and the stretch of drain incorporates property within the city, it could include properties that drain into the city because anything upstream would be part of the drainage district. If the property, if the drain is in the township and the city, then the drain itself would cross boundaries. So the county state drain law foresees crossing township and city boundaries as well as county boundaries for inter-county drains. So it is law based on drainage patterns and essentially watersheds.
So the city through the CIP would fund corrections in the township?
So the way I will answer it from the county perspective. The way that a county drain would work is that when a county drain is established, the jurisdictions would have a percentage of would be assessed for any work done based on the percentage of land that drains to the county drain. So if you have a county drain and it's got a city, a township, and another township, 1, 2, and 3, and it's 33% each, then any work done would be assessed out in that manner. If there's county roads involved, road commission would pay a little bit. So it's chopped up that way. So if there's city money involved, then the city and the CIP would only be involved with their share, their assessment, their apportionment. If it was Ann Arbor Township, then Ann Arbor Township would have an assessment and apportionment if they were part of the county drain. If there's a county road going through it, they're gonna get hit for a little bit too.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then Lynn has your hand up. So there you go. You should be able to talk now, Lynn.
Okay, thank you. My question is, according to the pictures, a portion of the creek that runs through our property is definitely severely eroded. And it's only gotten worse over the last couple of years that I've been contacting Jennifer and others in the city about this. My concern is, it sounds like if and when this happens, probably all of the trees that are along the bank are going to have fallen by the time the city's able to do anything. And I'm just curious if anything can be done in an interim basis that doesn't cost us as the homeowner $50,000, which is a quote we had gotten.
So I appreciate the way you phrased the question, which is what can the homeowners do? Because unfortunately, as you noted, it's on your private property, right? There's very limited ability for help at this point until we go through this overall process. I would encourage you to not jump to a contractor, but jump possibly to a consultant that could look at opportunities. Some, there's tree ordinances, but some of those trees are going to fall in and you might want to deal with them ahead of time and then use them for stabilization. You also, unfortunately, are going to probably have to deal with Eagle or former DEQ to do any work within the stream or the floodplain. But there are some vegetative solutions. There are some lower cost solutions that might buy you time. The warning on that, and we talked extensively about that this afternoon, which is you go ahead and do that work and then a petition comes in and we move forward with the project. If anything, we have to go through there with equipment, right? This is not going to be two guys, a pickaxe and a shovel and a wheelbarrow doing this work. It's going to be excavation. We have to clear a way through there. So we would want to try to encourage everybody to make sure you understood that. So if you invested $50,000 and it didn't fit with the solution for the overall process, that would have to be modified or in the worst case scenario, removed, which would be part of the project, but nonetheless, that's an investment that you didn't get out of. So I would encourage you to look for some resources either through the city's website or through the Huron River Watershed Council's website or through the county website, where we can hook you up with some people that might be able to take a quick look at it and try to give you something a little bit lower cost until a decision is made one way or another with this. Trees will fall in and they're harder to get later. But then again, there's also, the local ordinances regarding tree removal that you have to be careful of.
Okay, so I'm sorry, that's a very frustrating answer. I know I haven't spoken to you in the past, but
Right.
We're not going to spend $50,000 on something that the consultant told us won't solve the problem. We've already been told that it's too far eroded for, coconut fiber to do anything. I would be interested in another opinion, but, I feel like I've been calling the city for years and have been told multiple times that we can't do anything because of the DEQ or whatever it's now called. So I was happy that you're doing this project, but basically, I guess the way I'm hearing it is that we can't do anything but wait for all the trees to fall. And then maybe if it ever becomes a county drain commission, whatever it's called, then maybe something will be done. So, considering that the problem
And I'm going to
isn't-
step in on that, Lynn.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So,
and
I
finish.
mean,
was
we
gonna
didn't cause
step
this, we didn't
in and
cause
give
we
the
didn't
city
cause this
perspective.
we didn't cause this problem. It was caused by, all the construction. So, but we're stuck with a situation that seems like it can't be fixed.
Lynn, let me take a step back a little bit. It's not that it can't be fixed, and you and I have spoken a lot over the years. You are at the downstream end of this
Done. You're
entire
creek.
You're not coming through
And
clearly, at
that
least
is
I'm not hearing
extremely
you
unfortunate. So
clearly.
we have the creek shed wide record. Oh no, I had to go to internet because my phone's not working. Let me switch again. How about now? Better?
Yeah,
Okay, wonderful. I'm sorry, my internet's not doing really well at my house tonight. The genesis of this project was because Lynn contacted the city. Lynn is at the unfortunate location of the downstream end of this creek shed. So the recommendations, no matter what they are that come out of this project, will address the issues that Lynn is experiencing on her downstream end. By no means, Lynn, are we saying that there's nothing that can be done. And as I've mentioned, it's a process. The recommendations that come out of this study will be incorporated into the CIP, and they'll be prioritized across the city. If it's a high priority based on a multitude of factors, the project would be done sooner rather than later. I hope that doesn't sound like a frustration. Really, this is the solution, the best that the city can do right now. As you mentioned, it is private property. The city can't do anything yet. But if and when this does become a county drain, which in my opinion is not very far off, you know, we're kind of coming to the close of this project and moving forward with those recommendations, the solutions will come. That being said, it's not going to happen in the next 6 months, just because we can't even get in the funding cycle at the city. But this is that first step towards a resolution for you at the downstream end.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, yeah.
and Alan, your hand is raised. Is that left over from before? Did you have another question?
I don't on my screen. Well, it says lower hand. All right, got it.
There you go.
Sorry.
It's all right. And that's true for you too, Lynn. Did you have another question you wanted to ask?
No.
Okay. How about anybody else? I'm not seeing any other questions.
Well, in closing, I'm really excited to see where this project, the study at least, culminates with the recommendations. The consultant has done a lot of legwork and a lot of field work and really a lot of wonderful analysis, both on those private detention basins as well as in the creek itself. And I think the recommendations that coming out of this are going to give us a wonderful direction on how we can address the issues on a watershed-wide basis, including the establishment of a county drain, allowing us to incorporate city stormwater dollars to use for improvements on a watershed-wide basis. There will probably be recommendations that also come out of this for private property homeowners, including homeowners associations, based on the findings for the private detention basins, because everything is all interconnected. That's how stormwater works. So I can see kind of almost a twofold of what can the city do in partnership with the county, and then what can private homeowners do from the standpoint of managing stormwater on their detention facilities. So I'm excited to see that. Lynn, I know you don't have I'm sorry, there's a question. Heather, if you want to take that.
Oh, yes. We do not have a homeowner association. That's from Lynn.
And in response to that, the homeowners associations are responsible for the detention basins. If there's no detention basin in your neighborhood, then it would be a little bit of a different factor.
Another question just came in. Got it.
Lynn.
A statement, not a question.
So I would anticipate over the next several months, finalizing the report. We anticipate that I'll call it the closing outreach, will occur probably just before school starts, end of the summer, either communications with property owners, with streamside owners, and then putting forward those recommendations also internally within our capital improvements program and to the administration at the city for recommendations to establish the county drain district. So with that, I'm all set. Jamie, anything to add? Harry has left us.
Yep.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And if you do have any follow-up questions, you can always reach out to the project team. And as Jen said, look for us reaching back out to you in the future for the closure of this project, basically. Giving the final report.
Thanks, everybody. Good evening.
Certainly. Thank you all.